Like, for instance, why would you take something from a store if everything was free? If it's all free, then it's there for you to take. If it's not illegal, then you
Why would you steal something from a store when everything in that store was free? This is a justification for having sex with this 18-year-old babysitter. Back when I was a young man and my girlfriend probably wasn't born yet, there was this guy named Bill Clinton. Remember? And I remember Tucker Carlson, who was at that time less famous. Tucker Carlson today is more famous than Bill Clinton, you know. I remember Tucker Carlson trying to do a talk show about whether or not Bill Clinton should be impeached or face formal charges and hearings because of his own sexual escapades. And this guy representing the Democrat Party sat there. Remember, he was quite a fat guy in a suit, and you could tell he had this prepared statement set out in his mind. He was nervous. And he said, well, my opinion is that Bill Clinton didn't do anything that broke the law, and legal obligations are identical to moral obligations. Therefore, there can't be any ethical questioning. And in those days, a lot of cable television, a lot of broadcast news was pretty much live and unedited. Like, even if they had the capacity to edit, they just didn't bother. They just dumped it onto television. And Tucker Carlson just sat there saying to him, what do you mean? How can you possibly say that if it's not a legal obligation, it's not a moral obligation? How can you say that? Like, how can you say that? The discussion didn't go anywhere. You had this fat, nervous guy sitting there who's kind of sweating and looking around. You had Tucker Carlson just like with his mind blown. Like, how can you say that? Like, the conversation went nowhere. And, you know, back then, too, cable news, it wasn't, it wasn't so overcrowded with advertising. You know, they sat there for a couple awkward minutes. Now someone's going to find a clip of that. I mean, it must be somewhere on the internet. Maybe it's not interesting enough to have been archived here on YouTube. Awkward moment in Clinton presidency. I guess there were a few. All right. This is a long way of saying I'm aware there are some people, including some people I've talked to, who now retreat to the position of claiming that Onision did nothing wrong in his own sexual escapades because he did nothing illegal, and therefore if nothing illegal was done, there's nothing immoral that was done. And look, bottom line is, the reason why we talk about morality and ethics is not to take something away from Onision. It's to add something to our own lives, okay? It is worthwhile to reflect on the fact that, for example, Onision lied to his wife. So you can learn something from it. So you can do the analysis. So you can be a better person or reflect on what it would mean to be a better person and that kind of thing. All right. Ultimately, us sitting around and engaging in analysis and understanding of why and how Onision lied to his wife, it doesn't take anything away from Onision. It doesn't put Onision in jail, so on and so forth. And it may well be that Onision has obeyed the letter of the law without, I think, obeying the spirit of the law. And we're left to analyze questions like, nobody is even suggesting that America should pass a law making it a crime to lie to your wife. However, if you were to say to me that Onision did nothing wrong, in a situation where, for example, he promised his wife he was going to meet up with a young woman and spend, 18-year-old woman, and spend 1 week or 2 weeks with her alone, and he promised his wife they would only engage in kissing, no sex, no penetrative acts of any kind. And you know, they did in fact have sex of a peculiar kind. Anyway, they did engage in a penetrative act of a particular kind, obeying the letter of the law, although not the spirit of the law, so that he could claim that he hadn't broken his promise to her. There's something there for us to reflect on and analyze. The reason for this video today is one of my longtime viewers, who's seen my own videos reflecting on and analyzing what went wrong with Onision, or what he's still doing wrong now, managed to get a question in edgewise in a day when Onision, really, I think within 24 hours or 48 hours, he recorded and uploaded many hours of self-justifications and excuses. So what you're going to hear now is a question that from one of my viewers that more or less confronts Onision. And from my perspective, he really damns himself. What he says is unbelievably damning in his own defense in response to that question. So if you already know my channel, my past videos in Onision, you'll realize that this question is kind of reflecting on and summarizing many of the issues I've raised. You know, one of my first videos on Onision was titled, "Don't Date the Babysitter." And, you know, in Onision state, 16 is legal, okay? Age of consent is 16 there. I still think many people in my audience would concede the point that for a married man with 2 children to get sexually involved with a much younger woman he's employing as his babysitter is an ethical problem, is something to reflect on, whether it's 16 or 17 or 18 or 28. I'm 41 years old. What if I had a 28-year-old I was employing as my babysitter and then I get sexually involved? I still think that's messed up. And again, the point is, there's something for us to learn. There's something for us to reflect on here. It doesn't take anything away from Onision. If we reflect on it, it doesn't put him in jail. And again, I don't think anyone's even rushing to legislate on that matter. I don't know. Maybe we should. Defense of Babysitters Act. Vote yes on Proposition 248. I'm gonna run for office on making it illegal to, a law to make it illegal to sleep with your own household employees. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm talking myself into it. It's making more and more sense. All right, here we go. Onision confronted by one of my viewers.
Another question from the chat that says, why did Onision have sex with someone that was considered, quote, like a little sister or a foster daughter? He claimed repeatedly that he had no attraction to her and would never have sex with her.
Yeah.
Any fan of Onision?
Right. And something I've had to point out to people who were not in the loop when all this happened is that Onision also repeatedly insulted the audience. So Onision lied to Sarah, Onision lied to his wife, Onision lied to his audience, and he lied to himself. So again, even if there's no law broken, there's something worthwhile to reflect on there. What he insisted on, again, he insulted the audience and denounced them and claimed that you must be perverted if you imagine he would be sexually involved in Sarah with any way. This is a delusion in the audience. It's something he would never do. It's a very, very strange dance he did of, again, trying to impress upon us his sense of moral superiority because allegedly this was a girl whom he related to as a foster father to a foster daughter.
Onision himself answered me that. I was supposed to buy One Life TX3.
Okay. Well, things change over time. People change. It's kind of like what they're doing
Things change over time. She became your live-in babysitter at age 16, and then one day she turned 18, and, you know, things change over time.
It's kind of like what they're doing is kind of like saying, okay, let's say that you have this woman who's in your life, and it's an interesting, maybe not relevant analogy, but you have this woman in your life, and you would never fuck her or anything like that because she's the friend of your spouse, and then your spouse fucking died.
Really, really strange choice of analogy, because yeah, the justification for Sarah living in their house and collaborating with YouTube videos is that Sarah was the friend of his wife, right?
And then 5 years later, that person's still in your life, and you wind up being with them or whatever, even though you never would before. When circumstances change, when like this huge barrier changes, like this, when the legality changes about something, when, like for instance, why would you take something from a store if everything was free? If it's all free, then it's there for you to take. If it's not illegal, then you...
Why would you steal something from a store when everything in that store was free? This is a justification for having sex with an 18-year-old babysitter.
Change your headspace, and you start thinking, well, I mean, this is something that could be a possibility, and oh, hey, look, they're blackmailing me into doing it anyway. So you're sitting there going, there's nothing stopping you, and they're bending your arm to do it. And you're like, well, I just don't see the barrier. So,
well, like, I don't know if I could stomach sleeping with someone who I've known since they were underage. That's kind of...
So it's like you're robbing a store, but everything in the store is available for free, and they are blackmailing you into doing it anyway. So you just don't see a barrier there. And he thinks he's speaking. He thinks he's clearing his name.